All right. Bruce Campbell joins me now, Portfolio Manager of StoneCastle Cannabis Growth Fund. Bruce, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
You bet. So Bruce, let's start with an overview. You've obviously moved heavily into the cannabis sector. You've got some favorite names out there, but what is it in the cannabis space that you're most attracted to now in terms of company configuration?
I mean, there's a few areas that we like. Obviously, the extraction area we think continues to be fairly big. With the fact that, now we're going to see these concentrate markets open up. They're talking sort of December, but more likely, January of next year when those open up. And there's going to be so many different products that need extraction. And so we think that space is going to be fairly big. And then in the U.S., we continue to think that, there's opportunities there, both from a branding perspective, from a multi-state operator perspective, and then all the ancillary services. And then looking at Europe and South and Central America, I really take a look at those and think that they're, probably 3 years behind where we are in Canada. And so we think there's opportunity there as, we start to really get into medical and then probably down the road recreational markets there in those markets.
Sure. I'm looking at your top 10 investments. So it seems to me, if I was to just look at this top 10 list as from a 50,000-foot view, I see like two patterns in here. I see that you're very attracted to people who are focused on extraction rather than cultivation in some cases, and then you're also focused on the U.S. multi-state operator model. Would that be an accurate sort of takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, those are the two areas that we think have the most immediate opportunity. And then, obviously Europe goes beyond that. There's not a lot of investable opportunities for Europe yet, but so, most of it is what we're looking at in Canada because we're looking again for cash flow. And you look at the Canadian extractors in, Neptune, Balance, and MetaPharm, and, they're the ones that are generating cash flow. And then down in the U.S., obviously the multi-state operators, especially if they're in, if they're in limited license states, then they have an opportunity here to really build and gain real estate before we see some type of legislation change that happens. Are anyone's guess, but I would imagine in the next 5 years you see some type of legislation change and then it's legal. Right.
I read about in the Globe and Mail, you talked about a company called Halo Labs down in California, who's in Oregon, California, Nevada. And as a result of that, I went into some research and discovered that they have this quite a diverse product line of extracts, and then they've got this new thing called Dab Tabs with the Shatterizer, which I've never seen anything like it before. But Halo's not on your top 10 list. Is that just because it's kind of new for you?
It's new, and it hasn't been as liquid until late. So we have it actually split up into a couple different holdings. So we own some of the common stock, but we also own a convertible debenture as well. So it shows up as two different positions. So if you combine those, it would probably show up in the top 10, but as individuals, they don't.
I see. And what was it particularly about Halo that attracted you?
So they have, again, going back into extraction and kind of the expertise there, they have some expertise in extraction, and they have a number of different extraction solutions. So they're not just, CO2 or ethane or butane, but they provide, a number of different solutions. Plus, they've been innovative in their product design, so the Dab Tabs, and now they're actually trying to introduce a product which will be a Dab Tab vape type of product, which could, again, sort of revolutionize the business to a certain degree.
Sure. The Shatterizer Dab Tab combo you're referring to, I actually interviewed Kieran Sidhu, the CEO, in London last week, and that combined with this move into Lesotho, which is something that, when I see these, look, a lot of the companies move into Lesotho, and I'm like, what's with Lesotho? Why is everybody going to Lesotho? And then I also interviewed the Deputy Prime Minister of Lesotho last week, and now I understand that, Lesotho is basically this sort of elevated mountaintop kingdom that's got the ability to grow great cannabis and service the 60 million market-strong market of South Africa, which is significant. But they're planning to service Europe from extracts produced in Lesotho at super low cost because it's a low-cost nation.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you've seen a number of the different Canadian LPs all head over there, and eventually, I think the African market is going to be big. There's going to be a competition there with the black market to begin with, as much as there is in Canada. But eventually that gets regulated. But the European market, if they can get GMP facilities set up so that then they can export into Germany, would be the first place. And then, sort of beyond that, as we see country by country roll out medical or recreational programs, then there's going to be a huge opportunity there. And as you mentioned, the cost of production is going to be very favorable, especially compared to, indoor Canadian facilities.
Right. Halo Labs has 120 million warrants overhanging the stock at 80 cents. How much of that, how do you perceive that in terms of a barrier to the investment thesis for new investors coming in? Do you think that's a manageable sort of overhang that is ultimately going to get chewed through because of the milestones the company will achieve?
Yeah, that's what we think. I mean, obviously, investors have to be cognizant of that. And, as the stock probably approaches that level, you will see some pressure on it, especially as it sort of pops over, into the low 80s. There'll probably be some pressure as people who have been sitting on the stock exercise their warrants and then, sell the stock to probably exercise those warrants. But at some point in time, it will chew through that, and it will chew through it based on their business. If they can, do all the guidance that they've suggested that they can, then at some point in time, the market's going to say, okay, well, we're willing to put a higher valuation on this fully diluted than what it's worth now, and it will, chew through those warrants and go to a higher level, which will, of course, also help the company because they'll have, all this cash that comes in to accelerate their business without having to do, a new equity financing, but they're, it's kind of built in from the previous financings.
Sure. Let's talk a bit about StoneCastle Cannabis Growth Fund now. What kind of investor is it appropriate for, and how do they get involved?
Yeah, so I mean, we took a long time to get it set up. When we set it up, we wanted to have the flexibility to kind of go anywhere with it, and so we worked quite extensively with the Securities Commission to get it set up. And so that's really what we've designed, and what our feel is that cannabis is going to be the fastest growing sector, or one of the fastest growing sectors over the next decade in the world. And so we want to be able to take advantage of those anywhere. So if you're a growth investor and you want a piece of the cannabis market, it's very difficult to try to pick individual names. For one, the sector is extremely volatile. We talk about this now being the 8th wave that we've seen since we've been in the sector. And we started back in 2013. And those waves can be, 50% down and over 100% up. So you need professional management, in our opinion, and you need diversification. And so we add both of those. And what we do is we're able to act a little bit quicker. So we think that we add a lot of value to to a holding. If you had something like the HMMJ, that can be a good base, and then we can add sort of some diversification there, being able to act a little quicker and get into opportunities that they can't necessarily immediately act. And so we think that we're a nice complement to them, and a portfolio should have a combination of sort of that passive approach and our active approach as well.
Okay, great. Bruce, that's a fantastic first conversation with you. I'd like to do this again and again and again and again. So we're going to leave it there for now, and I'll come back to you soon and we'll do this again. Thanks for joining me.
Yes, perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.